Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Build Your Copywriting Business. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, so today we are digging into a very important topic. I mean, they're all important. We're not messing around here, but especially if you are writing emails for your clients, or quite frankly, for yourself, if you're writing
Pitch emails, yeah.
Mhm. Today, we're talking about the most important part of an email. And I suppose we could hold off, be very tricky,
What
tease
is it?
indefinitely. But why don't we tell them what it is and then explain exactly why it is so important? So, Kate, what is the number one most important part of an email?
It is the subject line.
Fascinating.
Yeah, not the call to action, not the anything inside the email, but I guess the wrapper on the email, if you will. And why is that? Because if they don't click the subject line and open it, the rest of your email doesn't really matter, sadly.
You could have written the most amazing email, the most compelling, interesting email in the entire world. But if you have a subject line that doesn't get people to open your email, they will never see the rest of it. And it was all for naught.
Mm-hmm. Goes to the email graveyard and sits in someone's inbox indefinitely until they delete it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And the other thing too, a subject line too, is when things are marked as spam, that it can be, not only does it get to someone's inbox in the first place, and can they open it, but does it go to spam first?
Yeah, if it goes to spam, they're never going to see it to begin with. So spam, you're going to see dollar signs will get stuff, multiple dollar signs will get emails thrown into spam, lots of exclamation points, lots of capitalization,
And as you know, you can click things, report as spam. So users have a lot of power in that. So even if it does get to someone's inbox, if you're getting your clients' emails marked as spam consistently, that's no good either.
I really thought you were going to say no bueno there.
I almost did. I love that.
I'm in your head.
You are. Yeah. I was like, why am I gonna say no bueno? What is this?
It's so funny. I was getting a very strong no bueno vibe there.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you picked it up. And
so speaking of no bueno and si bueno, I guess, what makes a good subject line?
Great question. So many things. I don't know. No, I actually have a few examples of subject lines I recently opened, which I feel like would be a good starting point for myself. I think, first and foremost, looking at the data for your subject lines, if your clients are tracking these things, which they should be, because sometimes what you think might make a great subject line ends up not making a great subject line for whatever reason. So keep that in mind with everything. But in the absence of data, there are a couple I recently opened, and I thought about, well, why did I open these? What got me to open these? And so the first one was "You're invited." It was an unknown sender, so I was very curious what I was invited to. I didn't click through the email, just as a note, because I had no idea how it got to my email in the first place, and I didn't understand what I'd be joining or the benefit to me within the email. But the "You're invited" itself piqued my curiosity, so it had that curiosity factor, and the invited aspect of like, ooh, it feels exclusive. Like not everyone's usually invited to things.
I love it. I think way back when you and I worked on Sneak Away, which is a website, QUE. It's not even up anymore, sadly. It was great. It was actually a really great website. But that was one of the highest performing subject lines was "You're invited." We tested a lot, but "You're invited" was one of the highest converting subject lines, or at least the highest open rate, I should say.
Yeah, some other ones. I got it. There was an inn in New Mexico. We stayed at years ago. Spend fall on the farm. So I opened that because I knew who it was, and I was like, "Ooh!" Especially this is 2020. I was like, "What are they doing for spending fall on the farm? Is this something I'll feel comfortable traveling to?" I liked that had it's almost like a call to action in the subject line of "spend fall on the farm." It felt very idyllic to me for whatever reason. Fall on the farm. I have a good imagination, so I feel like I help these copywriters a lot with like filling in the gaps of what they're trying to say. But I was like, oh, sheep, and they have lavender fields, and I wonder if they're in bloom and fall. They're not. But anyway, get by with a little help from your parentheses freelance friends. A company I used to do work with had this as a subject line. And I was like, oh, okay, this speaks to me. That's, I'm a freelancer, so this is relevant. Get by with a little help from your freelance friends. I like the play on the Beatles lyric. I'm a Beatles fan. I think the little help was what are they going to give me? There's obviously some benefit in there in this email. So what are there going to be tips or what? I wanted to see what the help was. There's definitely something in there for me. Milk Bar, which I love, whoever their copywriter is. I love you. They had an ode to the sprinkle subject line. And guess what? It was an ode to the sprinkle inside the email. Fantastic. I love an ode. Love their voice in general. So I opened that one. Health service reminder for Mocha, my dog. So definitely urgency. There was clearly something I needed to open with that. Is personalized. I think that's another, can make a really great subject line. I think across the board when tested, I think personalized emails just perform better than non. Which, speaking of, the last one that I opened was Kate, you're getting noticed. And that's LinkedIn. I think they use that similar subject line like every week when you're, if your profile is popping up and things. So it can feel a little stale once you see it a few times, but they're getting in that personalization and you're getting noticed. So it's like, ooh, what am I getting noticed for?
Yes.
I think all those, they kind of run the gamut, but so what makes a good subject line? It could be a number of things.
Yeah. So subject lines tend to fall into a couple of different categories, right? The first one you talked about, that piquing people's interest and like genuinely piquing their interest, not like, I was walking the other day and I thought about this, ellipses. Like, I don't know you. I don't care what you thought about yesterday. But if you're like, hey, I was about to pull up my wallet and buy the new MacBook when this stopped me. I mean, this is copywriting off the top of my head, so it's not a hugely great example.
A very long subject line, Nikki.
A very long subject line, yes. Apologies. But something that is actually interesting, something that is actually will pique their interest. Here is why you should never hire an accountant. Like, ooh, why? Okay, that's, I want to know, why should I never hire an accountant? Now, if you pique someone's interest, you have to pay that off in the email. You don't want to be gimmicky and that kind of thing.
That's a great point, because sometimes you open it and then it's like, oh, that was a great subject line, but it doesn't deliver. And if it doesn't deliver, then
Exactly. And then another group of subject lines is the benefits. What am I going to get out of opening this email? What's the point of this email? Tell me in the subject line so I can be like, oh yeah, that's useful to me. Let me open this email. You'll see a lot of emails that are follow us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram. Well, all right, I know why you want me to.
Sure.
Well, why should I do it? Right?
What am I going to get?
Exactly.
So it's that email with the little help. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a little help about freelancing in general.
Exactly. So the benefit is really clear. The more that you can, so pique someone's interest, absolutely. Or there are ways to combine the two, or make it really clear the benefit to people of opening that email. Anytime you're unsure, going back to the benefits is a great way to go. I do want to mention too, I kind of briefly talked about the concept of a gimmick. Be careful about gimmicks, because the first time people use them, they work really, really well. And then after that, they just become super annoying and super overused. I know one of the examples we talk about in the course and in the group is the oops, open, oops, sorry. They originally, 10, 15 years ago, people sent in oops email because they actually made a mistake. They sent out the wrong email before. They sent out, but now it's people send out an oops email because they noticed that the open rate on an oops email was really high. Now the open rate on oops emails have decreased exponentially because people are like, okay, this is a fake oops email. What do you, I don't even care to open it. So be really careful about gimmicks. And there was another one the other day that said, I screenshotted and I almost posted in the group and then got pulled over to something. It pulled into something else. But it said, the subject line was, don't open this email. Like,
okay.
So I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
plenty of other email in the inbox
exactly.
to
I
get through.
know you're trying to be cute and I know you're trying to be like, it's a gimmick. Like, don't open this email. I don't care enough about this to be like, oh, I'm going to open this email. Yeah, don't open this email. I didn't. So be really careful about gimmicky email, about gimmicky subject lines or vague subject lines. You know, you're competing with so much in people's inboxes, so much that you really have to hook them with that subject line, either by being super interesting and piquing their curiosity, or like you were saying, Kate, connecting with something that you know people who follow that brand genuinely care about. Like with Milk Bar, Kate follows that brand and she cares about sprinkles. I'm
I love
sure
a sprinkle. Love
she's
good
a
sprinkle.
sprinkle lover, and they
Who
know that
isn't?
about her. Exactly.
They got me pegged.
They got you pegged. You're a sprinkle lover. But also, I'm sure that a lot of people that follow Milk Bar are also similarly sprinkle lovers. Yeah. And so when they send out something that is ode to a sprinkle, it's cute, it's in their voice, but it's also something they know their audience cares about.
And then the inside is an ode to a sprinkle. Because if it wasn't, I'd have been pissed.
God forbid you not get that ode to a sprinkle. Yeah. You're a sprinkle lover. Yes.
But to your gimmick point, I think it can be very easy to put a subject line that you know is going to get opened and then not deliver on the inside. So, you know, you don't want to use a welcome email subject line just because, you know, welcome email, you know, they often are the most open email when it's not a welcome email, when they've been part of your brand for weeks and months and years. You want the content to line up. So it can become a tricky thing if you're like, ooh, this email maybe isn't the most exciting email. So how do we match it so that people, you know, will want to open, and then you will be pleased that they did.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because remember, the subject line is the most important part of the email, but it also has to work with the rest of the email. You can't just have a really great subject line and kind of a so-so email and then expect that it's going to perform. If you have a really great subject line, you also have to have, I mean, you would write a really great subject line. You would also write a really great email, but the two need to match. They need to play well together. A really great subject line needs to lead into that information in the body of the email. Otherwise there's if you have a really great subject line and you have a huge open rate, fantastic. But if it doesn't match with what's in the body of the email, then nobody's going to click the email. And then there was no point in sending it to begin with. So the subject line is the most important part, but it doesn't live on its own. It has to play well with the body of the email to get people to take the action that you want them to take.
Yeah, and I have a few examples of subject lines that I feel like could be improved, maybe. Ones that were in my inbox that I was like, I didn't open them. One off the bat, some that don't even need to be opened, it feels like. So for example, thank you for scheduling your payment, which was for my credit card. Awesome. I scheduled it, confirmed, deleted. I don't need to open that email.
Which actually, I mean, they're just sending you a confirmation, and quite frankly, they probably don't care if you open that email.
Exactly.
So they put in the key piece of information in the subject line. So really it's doing its job there. Yep. Absolutely.
And I appreciate that, because I'm like, I don't need a, you know, oh, do I have to, you know, a scare tactic from my credit card company making me feel like, oh, did I pay it? Did it go through? Did something wrong? You know, like need confirmation or whatever it is, only to open it and be like, yes, your payment went through. I'd feel like, why did you just put me on that emotional roller coaster for no reason?
Yeah, like important information about your credit card account, and you open it up and
like,
it's just,
yeah,
exactly.
That one comes a lot. And I'm like, oh, did I not schedule it this month, or, you know, whatever it is.
And they're like, you've got new rewards coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super annoying.
Yeah. But some other ones that I think could be improved, and we can chat about why. Fall is all about grilling and grubbing. That was the grocery store. I was like, yes, it is.
Grilling and grubbing.
Grilling and grubbing.
Now, I'm familiar with the term grub as a substitute for food. Is grubbin or grubbing, is that now a term, or a term that people use anywhere to refer to eating?
if anyone in the South knows, that's where I am now. That's where my grocery store is. Please let me know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I genuinely don't know.
Genuinely don't know.
That would make sense.
It could be.
It would make sense if they were referring to Grubhub, which do you guys have Grubhub down there? Yeah. Like
I live in the US.
I don't know.
I'm not in the middle of nowhere.
My little bubble now. So grubbing could make a little bit more sense. Again, if it's a term that's used more commonly in the South. But
question mark.
It's if you're going to use words in your subject line, make sure that people know what they are.
Yeah. And I think usually every week they have some sort of like meat that's on discount. That would be more compelling if I can grill for less type of thing. Give me that information. Again, I didn't put the snippets with these, but even then you can't rely on your snippet doing the work. Not everyone's going to see that text anyway. So, finding purpose with Jerry. So this was a dog company, and the snippet helped me figure out who Jerry was, which Jerry is a 3-legged dog who taught us humans about life's journey.
Oh,
yeah, very cute. But I saw that subject line and I was like, who's Jerry?
Yeah. That would be a pique the interest that doesn't pique it enough. Like,
yeah.
What was it? Finding
purpose with Jerry.
Finding purpose with Jerry. I'd be like, I don't care. I don't know Jerry. So no, thank you. Delete.
I was picturing a human and I was like, Jerry, who am I picturing? I don't know, but who's he to tell me my life's purpose?
Exactly. They tried to combine benefit and piquing the interest. Benefit, finding purpose. Okay. A little light, but okay. And piquing interest by just giving a name. Now, honestly, if they had said something about like find purpose, find what your life's purpose, so I want more details in that benefit, but also I want to know who the hell Jerry is.
Yeah.
You can't pick, if you had said, find, whatever find your life's purpose with a 3-legged dog named Jerry. Again, very long. Maybe it's find your life's purpose with a 3-legged dog.
Yeah, there you go.
So much more interesting. I'm not saying that is what the copy that they should have used. I'm not a great extemporaneous copywriter. I need to sit down in front of a keyboard, but it gives you more details and the benefit of what I'm actually going to get out of it. And you can still pique someone's interest about what the content is. I still don't know what's going on with this 3-legged dog, but I think an important thing for people to do is to write a bunch of subject lines, never write just one, write a bunch of different options, and then step away and come back and put yourself in your target audience's shoes and imagine that subject line showed up in your inbox, and just look at that subject line in your target audience's shoes. Would you open it? If not, it's gotta go.
Yeah. And I think, their snippet helps, but again, not your snippet should be adding on to the subject line if someone, sees more and expand on it. So if you're not getting everything you absolutely need in that subject, then you need to rework it and not rely on the snippet to, for it to be a 50-50 thing.
Yeah. Kate, do you want to do a little reminder of what a snippet is?
Yes. Good call. Cause I don't think
sometimes called a pre-header, I think too.
Yes. Pre-header text. And so it's that little line, and not every email client, I'm pretty sure, shows it depending on how your settings are too, and how much of it gets shown, but it's the little bit of text after the subject line. So usually the subject line's kind of a little bit more bolded. And then after, you'll have kind of the normal font text that follows after. So before you click through, this is still copy you're seeing, not within the email. And now if you don't set a specific snippet or pre-header text, then often the email, whatever email client your client is using, email program your client is using, words.
Whoa. Okay. Whoa. Let's dial that back for a second there. So like say Google, Gmail, or
yes, any of those. They'll pull in the text from your email. So you always want to write a snippet or pre-header. Otherwise, it's going to pull in whatever kind of the first lines of your email are, which may or may not make a lot of sense with the subject line.
Yes. So your snippet can be a way to, like a subhead, it can be a way to add additional details to a headline. But again, to Kate's point, not every email provider is going to show the snippet. And frankly, some people won't bother. If they don't understand your subject line, they might not even bother to read the rest of it.
And if you start noticing it when you're looking at your inbox. I know for me, the subject line stands out so much more with the font and how my email's set up that the snippet is so subdued that often I'm opening it based on the subject, not on anything in the snippet. So start to see what you do too and what you notice and what you don't. Still an important piece of copy, but don't rely on it 100%. So a couple more. VOTE. This was a kids clothing store. And A, I don't have kids. B, I already voted. I think this was after. So it was an interesting subject line. VOTE.
That was VOTE. And it
with hyphens between V-O-T-E, all caps.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting one.
Yeah.
I think they were selling a shirt, I want to say, with like vote on it, maybe, or something like that. But
yeah, no, there's no way you could know anything about that email without opening it up. And there's nothing in the subject line that makes you care enough to open it up.
You're like, yes, I'm voting, or no, I'm not voting. Yeah. And then what? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting one.
Or thanks, I already have. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Another local clothing store. I should probably pitch them. Meaningful fashion. That was the subject line. I think it was about sustainable fashion, but
ironic that meaningful fashion doesn't actually mean anything. Oh, the irony. Yeah.
And the last one, tired of your same four walls. This was a bed and breakfast in Savannah. Again, during the pandemic, I think they were opening up rooms for, here's what we're doing. But tired of your same four walls. That was, again, a yes or no question where I'm like, yeah, I am.
I am. Thank you. Delete.
What now? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the solution to being tired of my same four walls?
Yeah, exactly. I give them credit for trying to identify with the target audience, and they understand that pain point. But yeah, okay, so what? Tired of the same four walls, check in here, or check it. Tired of the same four walls, take a look at ours. Again, not that exact copy, but give me a reason.
That idea. Yep.
To open the email. Yeah.
And absolutely. I know we've mentioned this in the past, but those yes, no questions are always tricky of if they're going to pay off or not, because someone can have a one-word answer and then what?
Yeah. And frankly, if you answer it one word, often if you can answer it in one word or the other, there's no point in opening up anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. As Kate is reading through these actual real life emails that were in her inbox, it's a good reminder that you guys should be doing the same thing. We get so used to just going through our inbox and we get so many emails and being like, delete, just to get stuff out of there. But as you are learning more and more about copy, that's a great place to be like, all right, slow down a little bit. Let me actually read these subject lines and identify what my impulse was. Was I going to delete it? If I was going to delete it, why? Exactly. Why? Or if I was going to open it, why was I going to open it? What was it about this email that made me want to delete the subject line that made me want to open it? And if it's something that you would have deleted, how could it have been written differently to make you want to open it? And then two, if it's something that you would have wanted to open, great, open the email and then read through the email. Does the subject line connect with the body of the email? Anytime that there's so much copy all around us all the time. And it'll be one of the best things you could do for your career to start actually noticing that copy and reading it and then analyzing it based on what you know about what makes for effective copy and what makes for copy that's probably a little bit less effective. And then really taking the time to rework it, like, if they just said this instead, or even if they had added this or taken this away, it's such a great way to analyzing and not amending, but changing other people's copy is a great way to learn, but it can also later on help you when you're working on your own copy and editing your copy. Because like we'll say, copywriting, any kind of writing really is only half writing. The other half at least is editing and tweaking and changing and polishing and all that kind of stuff. And the more that you can learn to do that with other people's copy, the easier not that you'll ever find it necessarily easy, but the easier it will be for you to be able to do that for your own copy.
Yeah. And if it's helpful, especially starting out, and, if you are the type of person who hates a blank page, start keeping a Google Sheet or an Excel doc of subject lines, or even a Word doc, I guess it doesn't matter, of subject lines that you think are really effective. If there's, a question subject line that you feel like was a really good use of that tactic of using a question, and why, and it piques curiosity, or just keep a running list so that when you are writing an email, you're like, I have to write the subject line. You can go to that for inspiration of like, what have I liked in the past? Is there something I can, you don't want to take verbatim the subject lines, but there might be something that you can then apply to your own work. And at least you're not facing that blank page. You have kind of your repository of things that you feel like were really effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They can help to kind of pique your creativity. And we were saying,
get your brain going.
Exactly. Get it moving. And we were saying too, you never want to do just one subject line.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to do a couple of different, even you're going to want to write several different versions for yourself. But I would also always recommend sending at least 2 versions to your client,
mm-hmm.
and saying, hey, I'm sending over 2 versions for you to test them out.
Mm-hmm.
It's always beneficial for a client to test subject lines, and not test them in the sense of like, are you a good copywriter or not? But test in the sense of which one gets people to open the email more. Sometimes, we put our best foot forward, but you can't ever really know for sure which one is going to perform better, and by how much. So testing a subject line gives them the opportunity to say, okay, they're both great subject lines, but this one got people to open the email so much more. So then we'll move forward with this subject line. And I also think it's just kind of a nice little surprise and delight, or a nice little, hey client, here's a little something extra I did for you, to include when you send through send through an email copy that you wrote, or send, the Word doc to them. Say, hey, I included 2 subject lines. This is the one I'd recommend, but if you're going to test, I would test this one against it. I think that's just such a nice mark of a professional, and like, hey, don't forget, I'm your partner in marketing. Here's something you can test right away, and test pretty easily. It's a really nice touch as a copywriter.
Yeah, especially if you have 2 very different approaches to the subject line. Like, for example, maybe you have one that's very straightforward of like, here's the guide that you wanted, or that you signed up for. And then maybe another one that's more, it's get started improving your life, or whatever the guide is about. So maybe more benefit driven, but not necessarily 100% clear that here's the guide you wanted. Or maybe some combination of those 2. But 2 very different approaches, one very straightforward, maybe one that's more harder hitting on the benefit of the guide, and seeing, okay, does one or the other perform better?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that seeing it's all through testing, and most email management systems make it real easy for your clients to test them out. And especially if it's something that's going to be like part of a funnel, or emails that they're going to use again and again, they do want to test it out to make sure that they're sending out the subject line that's going to get the most open rates. Because again, to bring it full circle, if a subject line doesn't get people to open the email, there's no point in sending the email, because nobody's going to see it.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of generic information, I feel like, about keeping subject lines to 5 words or under 60 characters so it doesn't get cut off, but those are also things you can test. Length is a great thing to test.
It is.
Is 2 or 3 words going to perform better, or is the 60 plus that maybe gets cut off the one that performs better?
Exactly.
It might vary client to client. So
yeah, then that's such a great point, because there's always something floating around, but like 42 characters is the exact right amount. Like, no, there is no exact right amount. If it's a good subject line and it does its job, you can't, like, a cruddy 42 character subject line is not going to do better than a really well-written short one, or a really well-written long one. So it's not about the characters or the length. It's about the content about the copy of the subject line. Although that is a great point, Kate, because, or what it made me think of was a great point. So I have another great
You're
point
in
to
my
add.
head. Do I have one?
Well, tell me if this is what you're going to say next. Is that you want to keep, as much as possible when you're writing your subject lines, you do want to keep the most important words toward the beginning of the subject line, because on phones
it's
or
just,
on
yes, mobile, yes, you are in my head.
I thought so. We're really into this today. The second half of or later parts of the subject line can get cut off, so the people never even see them. They just see the beginning part of the subject line. And also too, if someone is scanning down, they may only see the first couple of words. So the most important pertinent words, as much as possible, you want to keep toward the beginning of the email. So if, for example, you're sending out an email about
40% off something.
40% off something, 40% off,
socks.
Socks, holiday socks. No, it's perfect. It's what I need. It's like improv. Okay.
Give me a word. Yeah.
A skit with 40% off socks. But so an email that says bright, cheery, happy holiday socks at 40% off. Mm-hmm. That key benefit, the 40% off, is at the very end, and people might miss that. Whereas if it's 40% off holiday socks, get the brightest, cheeriest, merriest pairs, then they're going to see it because it's right at the beginning of that subject line.
Yeah. I'm picturing elves with bells now on a pair of socks. So told you my imagination. I just help copywriters out. This is...
I'd wear those socks. Yeah. I definitely wear those socks. Yeah. Yeah. 'Tis the season for elf socks. Yeah.
Depending on this podcast airs, it might not be.
That's true. So we're recording this when 'tis the season for elf socks.
'Tis the season. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But also Christmas in July. So it's always the season. It's 2020. There's no rules.
'Tis always the season for elf socks.
Or 2021. I don't know what year it is.
It's a good point. Okay. So we hope that this was helpful. We hope that you learned a lot of important information. Key among those being that subject lines are most important, and then that Kate really loves sprinkles. Yep. So for more hard-hitting information like that, we will catch you back here next week. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyricwriter.com. We'll see you next time.